This is America's Roundtable from Washington, D.C., an initiative of the U.S.-based think tank, the International Leaders Summit, in partnership with Lancer Broadcasting and the Pledge Radio in Michigan. I am Anand Samy, your co-host, joined by Natasha, Srdoc, economist and co-founder of the International Leaders Summit think tank. America's Roundtable brings together leading voices from business, government, media, and the public policy arena. Thank you for joining us on America's Roundtable. At America's Roundtable, we would like to bring to attention key issues that matter and to engage your senators and representatives in Washington, D.C. and your state to advance principled policies. Today, we would like to inform you about a NATO member sponsoring anti-Semitic and Holocaust revisionism events in Europe. Croatia and its parliament continue to sponsor events honoring pro-Nazi Ustasha soldiers from World War II. A week after Americans and Europeans joined together through virtual events in commemorating the 75th anniversary of Victory in Europe, VE Day, remembering the significant sacrifices of an entire generation fighting for freedom against tyranny, the Croatian parliament organized an annual event honoring pro-Nazi Ustasha soldiers and the Independent State of Croatia, a fascist regime which forged strong ties with Nazi Germany during the Second World War. On Saturday, May 16, 2020, in Sarajevo, Bosnia, the Croatian parliament sponsored an event to further fuel anti-Semitism and Holocaust revisionism in the Balkans. A separate event was held in Zagreb, the capital of Croatia. During the Holocaust, 80% of Croatia's Jews were murdered under the rule of the pro-Nazi Croatian Ustasha government. In Sarajevo alone, 7,000 out of 10,000 Jews were murdered under the rule of the Croatian Ustasha government. While these public events for May 2020 were reported in advance, the majority of Western diplomats residing in the capital city of Zagreb remained silent. The Western diplomatic appeasement tactic has emboldened Croatia's anti-Semitic figures. The diplomatic corps living in Zagreb are using Western taxpayer funds to continue to wine and dine Croatia's politicians mired in corruption. EU and NATO member Croatia is dependent on American taxpayer funds through billions of dollars in direct aid grants and favorable loans via the World Bank, EBRD, and other entities. Contact your representatives to hold to account the Balkan states' politicians and freeze all aid to Croatia. How would Americans and Europeans respond today if the modern-day Bundestag, Germany's parliament, would sponsor an event commemorating Nazi soldiers and glorify Adolf Hitler and the country's dark history? The West must not remain silent in the face of evil when facing Croatia's anti-Semitic figures fueling Holocaust revisionism. Dr. Kraus, president of the Coordination of Jewish Communities, said, I quote, "The HDZ government in Croatia has failed to address the rise of anti-Semitism and the display of fascist symbols. It is lenient towards those sympathetic to the World War II Croatian fascist Ustasha regime," unquote. Over the years, Croatia's politicians have used anti-Semitic laws to block the return of Jewish property and currency stolen during the rule of the Croatian Ustasha government from 1941 to 1945. Some $3 billion worth of stolen private property and currency ought to be returned to Croatian Jewish families, their descendants, and the Jewish community. A principled approach from the West should include legislative action to freeze all taxpayer aid sent to Croatia via EBRD, the World Bank, and NATO-related military assistance to censure Croatia's politicians. The U.S. State Department ought to block the visit of Croatian politicians, anti-Semitic figures, and individuals tied to Croatia's criminal and corrupt networks to enter the United States of America. Croatia's government officials have been lobbying through Washington, D.C.-based groups, including think tanks, to expedite its entrance into the U.S. visa waiver program. America's elected officials should block Croatia's entry into the special designated visa program. The U.S. Homeland Security's U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services ought to take a leadership role in carefully vetting visa applicants from Croatia. The world is watching. Principal leaders and engaged citizens within strong rule-of-law nations have a responsibility to act. We owe it to the 6 million Jews and the 80% of Croatian Jews who were murdered during the Holocaust. I am Anand Samy, your co-host, joined by Natasha, Srdoc, economist and co-founder of the International Leaders Summit. Thank you for joining us on America's Roundtable. Visit our website, iLeadersSummit.org. Follow us on Twitter, iLeadersSummit and America's RT. On Facebook, International Leaders Summit and America's Roundtable. Thank you for joining us on America's Roundtable.